Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order, please. Thank you very much for Beaumont City Council, regular council meeting for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. We are called to order. We give our land acknowledgement. The City of Beaumont recognizes the histories, languages, and culture of all First Peoples of this land, whether it be a First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich vibrant communities across the land. As we gather here in Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis Nation, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect, honor the treaty, the inherent rights of the people, and the land. We have one proclamation this evening. Excuse me a moment. National Safe Digging Month, April 2025. Whereas each year the integrity of Alberta's underground infrastructure is jeopardized by damage during ground disturbance activities caused by those who fail to call or click before you dig. And whereas the consequences of damage to buried facilities can include service disruptions, environmental contamination, property damage, personal injury, and even death. And whereas the Alberta Common Ground Alliance and members promote the principles of damage prevention best practices and include the need to call or click before you dig. And whereas ground disturbers, including contractors, homeowners, and landowners, can save time and money and keep our province safe and connected by following damage prevention best practices, including one that make simple call to Alberta One Call. Damage prevention process, the digging community, buried facility owners, operators, buried facility owners, operators, buried facility locators, regulatory agencies, training organizations, and the One Call Center all agree that prevention of damage to buried facilities is a shared responsibility. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Bill Danlick, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as National Safe Digging Month in the City of Beaumont, Alberta, dated 8th of April, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you put the agenda on the screen? Any changes to the agenda this evening, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any additions to the agenda this evening.
Thank you. A member of council looking to move the adoption of the agenda. Oh, Councilor Newkirk.
Lost my spot here.
That's okay.
Is this where we would talk about the consent agenda, or would that be later?
That's later.
That would be in number 5?
Yes, correct.
Yep. Okay, so right now I would move that the April 8th, 2025 council agenda be adopted as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, before we begin with the vote, I should mention that Councillor Barnhart is on vacation, leaving us 6. So in a situation where we have a tie vote, the motions are defeated. That's standard procedure under parliamentary rules. So a 3-3 vote means any motion would be defeated, just for the record. Council, would you please initiate the voting process for the agenda? Open forum. Do we have any open forum registered people this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we do have one open forum registration this evening, Mr. Kashmir Gill, here to talk about pickleball. And Mayor, we do also have another member here in the public, Mr. Jim Boudreau, who is not registered as per the meeting procedures bylaw, who wishes to address council this evening. And council will need to make the decision on whether or not to allow Mr. Boudreau to speak this evening.
Thank you. We'll go with Mr. Gill first, please. Welcome, Kashmir. Let me just find your microphone here. It's on. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Begin when you're ready, please.
Yeah, Mayor Danlick, members of council, and members of the public here in attendance in the chambers and those watching at home. My name is Kashmir Gill, and I'm joined this evening by Glenn Babchuk and other picklers behind me on the front row. We are here to advocate for and to seek your support in investing in new outdoor pickleball courts that will positively impact our diverse community. So by way of background, pickleball is growing in popularity, especially amongst diverse age groups. Seniors play to stay active and build fellowship, and together they strengthen the social fabric of our community. Beaumont has a very active and enthusiastic community of what we call picklers. We have more than 250 people of all ages who have signed up, and they play regularly, both indoor and outdoors. There are young teenagers like Kirsten and Dion who have taken pickleball like fish to water. Then we have Jerry, who's in his 80s, who is an inspiration to us all. And there are many more players in between, truly representing the diversity of Beaumont in terms of age, gender, and ethnicity. For the past several years, with advice and counsel from you, we have been actively engaged with city staff to advocate for new dedicated pickleball courts by providing the evidence of the urgent need in our community. It is important for us to acknowledge that they have been very helpful and supportive. So what is the issue, you may ask? Given the many positive meetings and dialogue we've had with council members and city staff over the past several years, and making presentations to the Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee, who were also very supportive, by the way, it has come as a great surprise to us that administration is now recommending not to proceed with the pickleball course development at this time. We understand that council will receive a report from administration as part of today's council's agenda. We also understand that this report is part of the consent agenda, and council may choose to accept it without discussion. We sincerely hope that this is not the case, and that council deems it important to have a constructive discussion on the contents of the report. We would, of course, like to urge council to see the development of the pickleball court facility as an investment in infrastructure with multiple benefits to its residents, and not simply as a cost item. As we all know, there are many health and wellness benefits. Physical fitness, mental health, and social connection are all important aspects that come out of pickleball and other recreational activities. Economic benefits. Outdoor courts attract local tournaments, leagues, and events that can drive economic activity, benefiting local businesses such as restaurants and retail stores. Tourism. Pickleball is drawing enthusiasts from outside the area for competition and recreation play, which can boost tourism and local economy. Affordable facility. Outdoor pickleball courts can be less expensive to maintain than indoor facilities, providing an affordable option for recreation. So in terms of community engagement and inclusivity, access for all ages. Pickleball is known for being inclusive, catering to both young players and seniors. It is a great way for families to spend time together. Promoting active lifestyle. Outdoor courts encourage people to be active and use public spaces, contributing to healthier lifestyles. Opportunities for youth. Engaging younger generations in pickleball can help introduce them to a lifelong sport, encouraging fitness and community participation. The rapid growth of pickleball across the country is well documented, as we presented in our made-up presentation to the Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee in September. Just a way of quick statistics, 1.37 million people play pickleball in court, 50% increase in women players. Pickleball remains popular amongst older generations, but growth in number of younger generation is increasing. Many new players hitting the pickleball courts are under 18. Growing number of youth pickleball initiatives nationwide in schools, sports clubs, and summer camps. So as a case study, we know that Leduc recently developed 12 new courts. We've seen similar developments or initiatives around Spruce Grove and Sherwood Park. These important initiatives provide much needed infrastructure while investing in the future growth of our community. In conclusion, investing in outdoor pickleball courts creates a win-win situation for residents and the community. This type of recreational infrastructure is aligned with Beaumont's age-friendly strategy, the stated vision of which, and I quote, "Beaumont is an age-friendly city where the well-being and full inclusion of older people, sports, and accessible, healthy, and vibrant community for everyone. Pickleball supports physical and mental health, encourages regular exercise, fosters social connections, and provides an accessible, affordable way for all people of all ages, especially seniors, to live an active lifestyle. Advocating for these spaces can enhance the quality of life for older adults and contribute to the overall well-being of the entire community. And I will now ask my colleague Glenn to say a few words.
Very quickly, if you don't mind, that's 5 minutes, so if you want me very quickly, if you could, please.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Kaz, for the comprehensive review on our needs that we see it. We've been working on this for several years, and we've had many people advocating at different forums and sessions over the last several years as well. I find it, just as a pickleball player in the community, I find it quite disappointing if we're not be able to proceed. And if we can do this in a cost-effective way, I'm a taxpayer as well, and saw the estimate that was put forward. If there's anything that can be done to change the decision-making process and make it more economical for the city, would be appreciated so we can go forward. We have, one last thing is we have cities and communities very close to us in vicinity that already have facilities in place, and I think we're lagging behind. We have one tennis court here that we have outdoors, and then some temporary locations across the city that's not really sufficient for our needs. So I'm hoping you can reconsider.
Thank you, gentlemen. Having said that, the report, first of all, thank you for the presentation. The report that came to council this evening is simply a report, and if the council approves the report, it's going to come back to us at budget time. At that time, the decision will be made about the pickleball courts. The report did say recommendation from administration not to proceed. It's in the report. However, it won't be decided upon tonight. So the project is by no means canceled. The report could have been worded a little bit differently, perhaps, given the impression it's not going to be voted upon tonight to cancel it. It's going to be voted on to bring it back to budget, which I expect will probably happen. But that'll be at the time of on our agenda, okay? So having said that, I've got a couple of councillors with questions. I'll start with Councillor Markoff-Swain, followed by Councillor Nantalambus. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I think, as you know, this report is on what we call our consent agenda. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the assumption that someone will pull that off to discuss this. But when that comes up in front of us, we're not going to have an opportunity to ask you. So I just had one question, Cash, and thanks for being here. Whether you're speaking on behalf of the association, but recognize you're here speaking on behalf of a lot of picklers, as you call them. The question I had for you is, in the report, yes, the administration's not recommending going ahead, but they did take a look at different sites. And what I read in this report and what I understand is, previously we were really looking at the West Rec site and somewhere else, and then this Rousseau site came to fruition, and it sounds like that is the preference here for the group. So I'll get you to comment on that, but also, and recognize you've been through all the process to go through the Rec Master Committee. Thank you very much for doing that. The challenge with that site is it's not ready now, right? That is another construction season away. So I'm just curious, and again, won't get you to speak on behalf of anyone, but would the pickleball picklers prefer to be at that Rousseau site, knowing that it may not be until next year or even potentially after that, depending on how quickly development goes? Or would the picklers prefer to see something built on the west side? Well, I've been, I guess, in a privileged position to review all the previous sites through my role on the Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee. So the west site was the preferred site of the options available at that time. And as you mentioned, out of good fortune, I guess, the new site has become available because the school is being moved from the west site to a new location. So I think in many ways it saves on a lot of infrastructure costs. Speaking personally, but I'm not sure all the picklers have seen the new site and the options available. I am personally quite in favor of that. I think the location is good. It's surrounded with 4 seasons. There's other existing infrastructure. So in a way of having a community fabric, to me, it makes more sense. But I'm only speaking for myself. So potential delay, I would rather do the right thing rather than trying to do something quickly. So if that means slight delay, I'm personally okay, but I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, no, you bet. Thanks, Cash. And I was clear to frame my question that way. And if it gets put off consent, then part of the report shows the location and where, and we can get into that. But as the mayor said, not making a decision up or down on the project today. So thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for coming in and speaking to us and going through the process. And I'll also just thank Councillor Van Newkirk, all his work on the Rec Master Committee and bringing all the feedback about the enthusiasm of the picklers in town. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talabas, followed by Councillor Penrod. Nathan, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for the presentation. I was going to start off with a joke, what is pickleball? But there's a big group here, so I won't get into that. Everyone obviously knows what pickleball is and the importance to a lot of folks in the community. I do just have a quick question, I guess. There was a quick reference to some temporary sites and what facilities are being used currently for pickleball. Are you able to provide a little more insight as to the sites that are actively being used and maybe some of the shortfalls that come with the current sites?
Well, I remember that in Leduc, they used an existing tennis court and converted it into multi-use. And there was quite a bit of opposition from local neighborhoods because it was quite close. So it is important to have that bit of a separation between where the pickleball is played and residential homes. So in terms of this particular site, I think, in my opinion, and I haven't seen everything, it makes a lot of sense.
Perfect, thank you. And I guess just for clarity, the current sites that are played at, I know obviously within the rec center, I've seen it being played within the current tennis court. Are there any other facilities, and what are some of the downfalls with the existing structure?
The existing tennis courts, and Glenn, you can jump in, are just I think across the street from here. They were tennis courts and they are dated. They've been around for a long time. There are lines drawn, so there is a lot of confusion in terms of pickleball lines and tennis court lines, and there are cracks in the surface as well. So we have talked to administration about what the refurbishment cost would be, and we've been told it would be quite extensive. But still, we're looking at 3 or 4 courts there, and they may be okay for a short term, but I don't see that as a long-term solution.
Okay, perfect. So sorry, Cash, just to confirm, that's the only facility that's being used? Because my understanding is the rec center is used
So
the
that's
gym.
indoors.
Yeah.
So outdoors is the only one that's the existing tennis courts, yes.
Okay, perfect. And then for clarity, what are some of the indoor facilities that are available for pickleball that are currently being used?
I would say the demand exceeds capacity even for indoors. If you ask any of the people behind me, you'll see that there are 4 courts, 4 people playing on a court, 16 people playing at a time, and you usually have 15, 16, 20 people waiting. So it shows that demand is definitely there. We are definitely under capacity in terms of meeting that need.
Perfect. And then I guess just one last comment. You mentioned how obviously it helps the community. Obviously it promotes healthy lifestyles for all ages, everything. So that's always important. I know it's always a difficult subject when maybe that's not your sport, but whether you like soccer, you like football, you like arts, everyone needs a facility to perform whatever they need to perform, especially if it's a growing want within the community. So again, I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Penrod. Philip, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Donaluk, and appreciate you gentlemen, Glenn and Kashmir, for joining us this evening, and kudos for turning out a crowd. We love to see our council chambers full for council meetings, so feel free to stay for the whole meeting. It's going to be a barn burner tonight. Part of the reason I'm glad to see you turn out a crew here is I know one of the pieces of advice you were given early on was to go out and get organized, find out how many people. We try to make data-based decisions as a council and as an administration, and until we know what the demand is, how many players there are, the conditions of the courts, and pursuant to some of Councillor Natellenbos's questions, until we know those things, it's hard to make an informed decision. So my basic question for you tonight is, as you get organized, and apologies if I missed this, do you currently have an association formed, or are you in the process of forming one?
We don't have a formal organization per se. I mean, it is under discussion. I think, we've been debating this back and forth for the last 6 months or so, but we have sign-up sheet. We can provide that. There's over 250 people have signed up voluntarily, and these are people who play regularly, both indoor and outdoor. We know the number is much greater, but some of our players, better players or stronger players, play in other facilities which are easily more or accessible.
Thank you. Something to continue to consider. One of my questions for admin later, if we get the chance to discuss and debate this a little, is what some of the options might be and currently are with other associations, for example, Beaumont Baseball, for some of the upkeep of existing resources. You know, as we build things, we want them to last for 20 years and more, and sometimes we've had creative relationships with local associations to help share some of the ongoing costs of that upkeep and maintenance. So something to consider for the future for you and the rest of the picklers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councilman Newkirk. Stephen, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to make sure that I went last on this one because I've been pretty close to the pickleball conversation, and Cash and I have broken bread and had a coffee or two in chambers even here. This is where we hold our meetings. So a big thank you to yourself and Glenn for coming out tonight, and the continued advocacy, the getting organized, and the real partnership type approach that is being taken here. I just want to really recognize that and thank you for it. So appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. How many pickleballers are here? There's a couple. Perfect. Thanks. Appreciate that.
And there's a couple waiting across the pizza that got kicked out of here before 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Standing at the door and said they were having a closed meeting and they couldn't get in, so they left.
thank you. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, next on open forum, you mentioned we have some unregistered people wishing to speak.
Yes, Mayor, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we have a procedure involved where we have open forum guests to come before noon, so we can plan our meeting accordingly. We have a guest speaker to come to our closed session, which will happen in the next few minutes here. If you're talking potentially about the Dance Road situation, we have reached out to, I think Jim's here in the room somewhere. Oh, Jim, there you are. Another Janelle, too. There's a concern with Dance Road residents, which we're aware of, obviously, and we have spoken and reached out to Jim and Janelle, two people who are sort of leading the group of residents who have some concerns that there is an appeal process, the subdivision appeal board, and we're assuming that's being considered by the group of residents. So if you're here to talk about Dance Road or anything else for open forum, please come back next Tuesday and register before noon. And we do allow 3 open forum speakers to speak on an evening. That's kind of our procedure with that too. So I do appreciate your being here, but it's difficult for us to adjust our agenda on short notice when we have a very jam-packed agenda. Councillor Natalabas, you wish to speak at this point? I see your mic is on.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm trying not to overstep here, but I'm just wondering, and perhaps this is a question for legislation, if we are given the opportunity as council to vote on this request to speak. Is that an opportunity we're allowed to present, or can I put forward a motion to allow that to happen? Again, just to follow the traditional 5-minute presentation rule.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Natalenbos. Council can pass a motion to suspend their meeting procedures bylaw to allow the individual to speak. I do want to mention that we also do have another member here resident who stepped forward who wanted to speak. So it would not just be one additional, it would be 2 additional. If council is making the consideration for 1, they should be making the consideration for 2.
No, just one.
No, we do have another one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Clerk.
Yeah, thank you, Ms.
Councillor.
Winter. So I would be happy to put that motion forward, however that looks for both presenters. I do realize we have a packed agenda, and I just, given obviously the circumstances, it's unfortunate they didn't register on time, but I always want to hear from the public, so.
Okay, I'll wait till that motion gets put on the screen.
I would like to move that the rules under section 133 of meeting procedures bylaw 101422 be suspended to allow for 2 additional non-registered open forum presenters to address with council.
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate the motion. Anybody want to speak to it? Councillor McGough-Swain, Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. But thanks for putting it forward for the discussion. One thing I just wanted to clarify about this process. So obviously there's 2 non-registered. So the one that's not necessarily related to DONSA, we can get into that. But your comment about the subdivision appeal board and obviously the process that follows. I think. I say the awkwardness that we find ourselves in here is if that's a process going forward, then council certainly is not in a position to comment on that, right? Given that process. In saying that, you know, personally, I'm okay to hear a 5-minute delegation or a member come and speak for 5 minutes on it. I won't be saying anything because of the process that you have invited them to go through. So personally, to Councillor Tellenboss's point, I'll be supporting this motion to hear the feedback, and I'll just be clear here now while I got the mic that I won't be speaking to it because of the process. And if they registered 12 hours ago, they would be here anyway. So that's my reasoning behind supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Penrod, a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the note, Councillor McGough-Swain, around procedural fairness if this does go forward to an appeal process. Won't restate any of the points that you made. Just a couple of clarifying questions for Ms. Winter as the clerk. One, if we vote in favor of suspending meeting procedures bylaw, at what point do we revert to normal meeting procedures bylaw? And second, because hopefully that's a fairly easy answer, is it also included in the meeting procedures bylaw that public forum presentations are limited to 5 minutes?
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor Daniluk, through to Councillor Penrod. So this specific section under section 133 of the meeting procedures bylaw speaks specifically to open forums. So we would be reverting right back after the open forum. So we're not suspending the meeting, we're suspending this section of the meeting to allow 2 additional open forum presenters that did not register in time as per the meeting procedures bylaw.
And it does look like in...
And it would be 5 minutes as per the meeting procedure bylaw for each person.
Okay. Yeah, my concern is just, I'm with you in spirit as far as hearing people who want to be heard. I think it's a pretty clear and public process to register for public forum. Understand that people aren't always aware of that before the crisis comes up where they feel the need to speak. Also understand that concerns are high and feelings hot right now in Dance Row, so definitely want to have the opportunity to speak to folks. I just struggle from the perspective of suspending meeting procedures that we have for a reason and suspending some but not others. We have a whole group of folks here who followed the right procedure tonight. And also occurs to me that when we start doing this for one group, we're kind of beholden to do it for every group that comes forward and hasn't necessarily followed procedures. So that's my dilemma as I consider how to vote on this. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. Any further comments, members of Council? Councillor McGough-Swain, a follow-up?
Yeah, just say, yes, there's precedent, but you just got to think about this on a case-by-case basis. There's clearly an issue in the community, and they've come here and want a chance to speak. So, yeah, I think we have suspended meeting procedures historically for issues, and I think it's appropriate to hear them speak for 5 minutes. So that's all I'll add to that. the next time this comes up, it'll be potentially a different decision. But given where we are with this topic, I'd rather hear it.
Okay. Last comment from Councillor Van Newkirk, then I'll call the vote on the motion. Councillor Van Newkirk, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be supporting the motion as well tonight, and just want to reiterate, any process that is underway or has been invited to be underway. For myself tonight, I will be listening to the presenter, and I will view it as one-way communication from the presenter to council. And personally, I won't engage in any back and forth on that tonight, but I really do want to hear from the presenter through here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So having said that, just to be clear, when I said the procedure bylaw, it doesn't mean we don't want to hear from people, but we have a bylaw, as Councillor Penrod mentioned, for procedures for a reason. Otherwise, we could have, people coming and not going. I've had people not come because they couldn't register by noon hour, so they didn't come. They went the following Tuesday. So it's not fair to them to say, we're going to suspend rules. So we're kind of in a catch-22 here. We don't want to be accused of not listening to people. That's not the intent here, so please don't take the procedural explanations being not wanting me listening to members of the public. That's what we're here to do. So having said that, I'll now call for would you please initiate the voting process? Very quickly, Nathan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I put this motion forward, so I think I should have the final words to speak to it. In saying that, I do appreciate all the comments, and I'm a procedure gentleman myself. I do appreciate the reasons behind it, but I do also appreciate that we're constantly saying as council members, we need more people to attend our council meetings. We need to hear more voices. And unfortunately, again, did not register in time. However, this is an opportunity to hear from members of our community. So in saying that, I would ask that other councillors consider that, and it's an opportunity to hear the voice of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. So with that, would you please initiate the voting process on the motion before us? Nathan, would you please vote? I'm not showing you on the screen here.
Showing on mine and everyone else's.
Yeah, okay. I've got a unanimous vote, 6-0, in favor of suspending the meeting bylaw. We will have our first of two open forum guests speaking, please.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk.
The first gentleman that we have here, his name is Lauren. If he wants to make his way to the front to make his 5-minute presentation, there'll be a timer up on the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Before you begin, let me walk you through the process. Normally, Madam Clerk speaks to the guests before afternoon and tell you what the procedure is. So the procedure, as Kashmir did a very good job of, you present for 5 minutes, and then Councillor can ask questions, or can I ask questions, depending upon the topic you're referring to. If you're talking about the dance road situation, we've already addressed that. You'll be there could be an appeal launched to the proper appeal process, and so we won't be commenting because we can't comment on that. If your topic is outside that, you have 5 minutes, and then council may or may not ask questions, okay? It's not a back and forth questions unless we ask questions. It's a bit procedural. I apologize for that. Did a better job than I do when you're in the daytime talking to you before you arrive, so you were kind of catching you off guard with our process. So with that, sir, you have 5 minutes. And please state your name for the record and your address, and then please begin when you're ready.
Okay. My name's Lauren DeGraff. I reside on Dancero Way. Thank you for the consideration to be able to speak this evening. As I was slightly unaware of needing to register online, I figured that was for online presentations. So today I've come to speak to you with regards to two issues of concern. The first is fairly short and I feel should be taken in consideration with the upcoming service review. I have a concern regarding the snow removal guidelines. I live in Dancero Meadows along Dancero Way. This area has incorporated some of the parking guidelines that have been passed in January by Council. Current service levels do not allow for snow removal in alleyways, even on a complaint basis. I had an issue during a major snowfall in the winter before last. That particular snowfall had over 10 inches in one evening and excessive drifting as well. There were a number of residents that were unable to get to work as the alleyway was impassable to vehicles that were not an SUV or a pickup truck due to vehicle clearance. Our alleyway spans 368 meters or 1,207 feet in length from sidewalk to sidewalk. That alleyway currently serves as primary parking access for 84 residential units or 254 residents. Future development will have 198 residential units or 600 residents using that one portion of alleyway as primary parking. Mid-density units cater to individuals on a budget, which quite often include individuals that can not only afford smaller gas-efficient vehicles that do not have that excessive clearance. No one's asking for regular snow clearing for alleyways. We as citizens are requesting that complaints regarding snow clearing be taken into context to the number of residents affected and the conditions of the snow hazard, rather than my experience of being dismissed as alleyways are currently not included in service period, and the resulting in 2 days of missed work due to my being unable to get out of my dwelling. My second concern, the Mayor and Council are well aware of, due to many letters submitted of concern and numerous postings on Facebook. And 6202, 6302, 65th Street was a mixed-use complex. The original plan, as described in the Dancero Meadows outline plan prepared by Stantec Consulting, called for a mixed commercial unit with medium-density housing on 0.3 hectares, an equivalent of 12 units. This is what residents were informed of when they purchased their homes in the area. Administration has approved a 54-unit luxury development above the commercial development in its place. No consultation was taken with affected residents. This development exceeds the original plan by 450%. Insufficient parking was planned with this development. Utilizing the under 75 meters squared previous parking bylaw does not excuse administration of the parking requirements for this development. When professional consultants plan this neighborhood, they take these issues into account. Had administration approached the residents with this proposal, they would have had the input from many voices and greater input and knowledge as to the challenges presented. Now our municipality is faced with the potential legal repercussions of this decision, either from a developer that cannot rent these luxury units as there's insufficient parking to satisfy potential residents, or from residents that purchased in an area that was a medium-density development. Have you ever heard of couples or families renting luxury units with one vehicle? Residents also have the potential of increased conflict due to lax parking enforcement experienced in the area. The extra on-street parking that administration identified may need to be marked or patrolled for enforcement to prevent conflict should this development proceed as planned. Had administration brought this to residents, perhaps they could have received a buy-in to have 24 units on this parcel, which is equivalent to a high-density project. Instead, they approved an ultra-high-density project, 225% above high-density classification of 80 units per hectare. This is why residents are angry. Residents do not dispute the need for more affordable housing, but this decision is beyond that. I am personally disappointed that administration has placed the city into this situation. Council needs to provide more oversight to projects of this magnitude and/or allow community input to material changes such as experienced with this development. I feel that effective oversight by residents and council will prevent the potential for future legal repercussions of Beaumont residents. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, people. Lauren, thank you for your presentation. You did a very good job of it. A little
Thank you.
nervous there, but I saw the paper moving, so you did a very good job.
Yeah.
Councilman Telebus, you have a question on the snow removal, I'm assuming.
I guess so, yes. Just out of curiosity, how long have you lived at that residence, and have you had similar issues with snow in the back lane?
I've lived at the residence now for 3 years. I had a close call this last winter as well with not being able to escape, but a little bit of momentum, which may be a bit of a challenge given the density of the neighborhood with future development. That momentum wouldn't be allowed to be able to make my car clear in a safe manner.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, and again, appreciate you presenting. It's never an easy task, so thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Would you do me a favor? Would you, again, thank you for your presentation on Dancero. Your comments have been heard by council, and we have been aware of other comments from other residents with emails coming back from me and administration. Would you please send me a copy of your presentation by email? You got my card
certainly.
there.
Yeah,
So you can
I certainly-
distribute your comments to council as well, and administration as well, too. I'm not sure if you emailed me already. You may have, but I had a couple of emails.
No, I haven't.
I didn't think so.
I prepared this.
Okay. I didn't
parking
think so,
portion
so if you don't
in
mind,
advance.
please email that to me.
And this other portion, like I said, just due to the current circumstances of the
Yes.
last couple of weeks.
Good. Thank you for
So
coming.
thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have a second non-registered person to speak in open forum?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We do. I believe her name is Miss Nadine Hassan. My apologies if I said that incorrectly.
Do you wish to speak? I think you had your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. I had the wrong person waving at me. Sorry. Please join us at the front. And when you're ready, you probably heard my instructions on the open forum structure. Please, when you're ready, state your name and your address, and begin when you're ready, please.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to speak, even though we didn't pre-register. For the record, my name is Nadine Michael, and I live at 6113 65 Street, Dancero. Mayor and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As I mentioned, I am a homeowner in Dancero Meadows. So we are here, obviously, because of the development project that was recently approved in our neighborhood. One that we believe will have a significant and negative impact on the people who actually live here. The scale of the project is simply too large for our community, and the shortfall of at least 23 parking stalls only highlights how this plan doesn't reflect the real needs of future residents, let alone those of us who already live there. That number even assumes each unit will only have one vehicle, which we all know is not realistic in a city like ours. So I also, to make matters worse, as we know, there's also some higher density apartment buildings less than 1 block away. So that existing density has already created significant congestion in the area. So it seems like the cumulative impact of stacking high-density housing in such a tight area may have been overlooked. I wanted to read, I'm just being mindful of my time, so I just wanted to read some points. We did send a letter to the Ombudsman, so I'll just do a summary of that, and then I'll conclude what I wanted to state. But before I read that letter, my broader concern is this: who are the stakeholders that carry the weight in these decisions? Because from where we sit, it feels like the voice of the homeowners, the tax-paying residents who build their lives in this neighborhood, were placed at the bottom of this totem pole. So we're not against development. We understand cities grow and change, but growth should be thoughtful, balanced, and inclusive, not at the expense of existing communities. So what we are asking from the Ombudsman are 3 main concerns. Number 1 is obviously the severe parking deficiency and traffic congestions. We all know that the parking stalls allotted fall well short of the 54 units that have been approved. And then we also understand that a bylaw was amended to allow, regardless of size, 1 parking stall per unit. But we're just curious why previously the size of the unit was tied to the parking stalls allotted, because clearly if someone's in the unit, likely they're going to have a vehicle. Second point that we stated to the Ombudsman is the negative impact on our property value and the quality of life. So the excessive size and density of the development will likely lead to decrease in our property values for all the surrounding homeowners. And additionally, the proposed 4-story structure will obstruct views of the pond for several residents and diminish the aesthetic and emotional appeal of our neighborhood. These consequences are deeply troubling and have not been adequately considered by the city in this decision-making process. And then 3, lack of proper community consultation. We wish we weren't here today, and we wish we weren't advised to follow the appeal process. So our requested actions: immediate reconsideration of this project to align with the original 12-unit plan, or at the very least, a requirement for compliance with the updated bylaw mandating 1 parking stall per unit. Number 2, a transparent review process where community members are given fair opportunity to voice concerns and suggest alternatives to the development. And 3, an explanation from the city as why this project was exempt from the updated parking bylaw despite clear issues with parking availability. So in closing, I would just like to ask, I'm not sure who exactly was involved in the decision-making process, but I asked the question, did any of those people actually come into our neighborhood and see firsthand how this development would affect us? Would any of you choose to buy a home on a quiet residential street only to later discover it being transformed into a high-density corridor without adequate planning for the basics, like where are all these future residents going to park? Because that's exactly how us residents, what we're going through now. Frankly, for many of us, it feels like a bait and switch. We bought into this neighborhood nearly 4 years ago under a very different understanding of what was planned. And to be honest, had we known that this would be unilaterally changed without proper consultation, we never would have purchased our home there. So just my last statement, so I think we deserve better. Our neighborhood deserves better. And I hope moving forward, the voices of residents will carry far more weight in the decisions that shape where we live. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes open forum this evening. Thank you for your presentation. Next on our agenda is our closed session, 4.1, Land Development Update, closed pursuant to Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Would you please put the motion for a closed session on the screen, please? I'll make that motion. Thanks for attending this evening, and enjoy your night. Thank you. I move that council move into closed session at 6:47 p.m. pursuant to the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act, Section 24 and 27. Discussion on the motion, members of council? Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process to move into closed session? The motion carries unanimously. 6-0 in favor of the closed session. Okay, good evening. We're live back after our closed session at 8:58. We're going to, in the interest of time and commitments on important matters on our agenda, we're going to adjust our agenda, and we're going to move item 8.1 to our next item, then move to our consent agenda item number 5. So with that, we are now at 8.1, bylaw 1070-25, land use bylaw, amending bylaw, first reading. Ms. Ingram, welcome to council. Just take your time, just getting established there. You got a moment or two, and we'll get your mic on there. Just give me a second. Okay, your microphone is on, Ms. Ingram. When you're ready, please.
Okay. 1070-25 land use bylaw, amending bylaw. Administration received an application by Stantec Consulting on behalf of Qualico Communities. This application included an amendment, text amendment within the land use bylaw to introduce modifications within the integrated neighborhood district. For simplicity tonight, I'll be referring to the integrated neighborhood district as IN. These 3 modifications to this district are 1, a reduction in the minimum lot width for internal lots of multi-attached dwellings from 4.9 meters to 4.2 meters, an increase in the maximum lot coverage for internal lots for multi-attached dwellings from 55% to 60%, and clarification of design standards interpretation for multi-attached dwellings. So we provided definitions with associated diagrams within the council report that illustrate lot width, lot coverage, and design standards. These visuals are intended to assist providing clearer understandings of how these changes may impact the development of multi-attached dwellings within the IN district. These definitions have been listed taken from the land use bylaw. So what is a lot width? Lot width refers to the perpendicular horizontal distance between the side boundaries of the lot measured at the front property line, or in the case of an irregular shaped lot, as measured 6 meters from the front property line. So I'll take this arrow here and I'll just show you the blue arrow indicates what a lot width represents. So what's lot coverage? The definition of that is a portion of the lot covered by all structures. This includes principal buildings, accessory buildings, buildings and structures such as sheds, covered decks, verandas, gazebos, and breezeways, or other similar features. So in the illustration that you see on your screen, we have the property line indicated by the red boundary, and the lot coverage is included. The lot coverage includes the house, for example, a covered deck, and the garage. So we would add those totals of that area and divide it against the entire lot, and that's your lot coverage. Next up is what are design standards. So design standards refer to the aesthetic and architectural treatments of buildings on a lot that face a public roadway. These standards ensure individuality to materials, textures, roof lines, wall openings, and other design elements. They also ensure that the building within the lot complement each other in the appearance and fit cohesively within the neighborhood. So the visual that you have shown on your screen shows a multi-attached product or a 4-unit townhouse. And so you'll see within each individual townhome, there are different elements to make variations within the front facade. So you'll have different roof pitches, such as gables, different number of gables, different locations. You'll have difference in wall openings. So on the third floor, you'll see there's some 2-panel wall openings versus 3. You'll see some recessing, some projections within the building facade, so it gives some dimension and cohesiveness to the design. So, the applicant has indicated that these changes will facilitate compact, affordable, and visually appealing built form, and it will also align with market demands and regional growth strategies. So administration communicated the expectations within this amendment, and we wanted to ensure that there was adequate public and industry engagement, and there was a jurisdictional review of regulatory approaches against other municipalities in the region. So within the public and industry engagement, the applicant conducted 2 different surveys, one for the public and one for the development community. This was also advertised in the local paper for 3 consecutive weeks, and we also updated our planning and development notification webpage that included this as under the notifications with the link directly to the survey. So from that public engagement, there were no responses from the public. There were 7 responses from the development community, all in support, and they really cited that affordability and market demand is really their initiative for the push behind this. As a result of the applicant's public engagement campaign, it's summarized in the What We Heard report in attachment 3. So in addition to the public engagement that the applicant provided, we also circulated to internal departments and external agencies for feedback. Although, internal departments were generally supportive through that there were some concerns with potential impacts to snow clearance and waste bins. So later in the presentation, I'll provide a detailed review of how we are dealing with those concerns. So what we do know of doing a regional scan is this townhouse design. It is becoming increasingly popular within the region. We see similar designs that have been implemented in other municipalities through either direct control districts or special area zones. On the board or on the presentation here, these are some examples of other communities where this is developed. And looking at regional municipalities, we're seeing a shift towards compact townhouse designs, which are all commonly permitted within these different districts. There are some differences between minimum lot width and lot coverage, meaning that no example on the board here shows a perfect apples to apples comparison, but it gives you an idea that municipalities are shifting in towards smaller lot widths or increasing the lot coverage. I just want to take a moment to highlight that some of these examples on the screen are as part of a direct control district. So direct control allows for customized land use regulation. These are typically known for being one of a kind or only applied within certain areas or site-specific designs. Administration does not recommend creating a direct control district for this housing type. Instead, what we are proposing that the applicant comply with the land use district regulations, ensuring that the proposal meets a smooth transition from existing and future greenfield areas within the IN district, rather than being isolated in a site-specific district. The main intent of the IN district really is to support flexibility or flexible, innovative diversity and a range of housing types. So we feel like this fits in and we'd like to see it throughout the city. So this portion of the presentation is a comparison with what the current regulations in the land use bylaw are on the left versus the proposed regulations on the right. So the current regulations state that minimum 4.9 meter of a lot, and we do propose to keep that. There's going to be no changes with that regulation. The only addition to this is the second point, talking about minimum 4.2 meters for interior lots of multi-attached buildings where the access is from a lane at the rear of the property. So we want to ensure that we're very specific in determining where this product is allowed. Typically, this product you'll only see within the internal lots of a townhouse. So it's usually 1 or 2 units, not the full 4 units. So this proposed regulation was thoroughly reviewed for its design alignment with the municipal development plan, as well as other adopted plans and strategies that the city and region has implemented. Some examples of these can be found in the report, but housing diversity and affordability, social resilience through the social master plan, efficient infrastructure, and environmental sustainability. Administration does conclude that the proposed amendment does align with key municipal and regional policy directives. So as I mentioned previously, within the internal circulation, we did receive some concerns from other departments based on the 4.2 meter lot width. There are 2 that I just want to pay attention, or that I do want to highlight. Snow storage and removal is 1, and the risk is with narrow lots, you're going to have less space to find snow storage on the site. So this could lead to snow being pushed within the alleyways and off-site, which might increase visibility for drivers passing by and include additional service costs. In addition, the waste collection was also noted that this was a concern. So residents would have to place their garbage bins in front of their driveways on collection days, and so when vehicles or after the collection has come through, then they would be stopping in the laneway, removing their garbage bins from the middle of the driveway and putting it back to where it belongs the majority of the time, and this might impact accessibility. So I just want to show a few slides that kind of illustrate this. So administration's review, so we're only looking at the internal lots. We're not looking at the exterior lots on the end on a multi-attached product. And then furthermore, this is a bird's eye view. So you're seeing on the left, this is exactly what you could do today based on the land use bylaw regulations, and on the right is the proposed rear attached product. So you can, have that flexibility for the interior lots to minimize that to 4.2. I just want to make a note that this is not a requirement, it's more of an option, that this is a minimum lot width. It's not like it needs to be met for every development, but the option is there. And this is a site visit that administration conducted within the city of Edmonton, and one of the sites that I provided in the chart. So what you'll see is an alleyway with rear access on both sides. So you see that on the one side, on the first picture on the left, you'll see that there's driveways that are at least 6 meters wide, 6 meters in length. So you could fit a vehicle on the driveway, and you also have a single car garage available inside the building. On the other side, you're seeing a different kind of form of housing type where I don't know exactly, but it's usually, I think it's 1.2 meters for that rear landing pad, so you can't actually fit a vehicle on there, but you do have access to the garage, so you do have a parking space for that. Both examples show what it could look like in snow with the garbage bins. So we know that this is a concern. We wanted to see what other municipalities were doing and how to mitigate the strategies. And so based on the site visit, there is room between the garages. If you look on the right side of the screen, there is room between the single garages that you can either store your waste receptacles or you can pile snow. So we felt that there is enough room based on the calculations of how wide a garbage can is, and then versus the area of the side yard of the property and being able to locate it there. So despite the concerns, administration has worked closely with the applicant to address some issues, conducted site visits for snow storage, waste collection, and overall serviceability. And a detailed analysis of each concern along with our findings is included within the report, which we have deemed to be satisfactory to provide mitigation strategies through either policy guidelines on addressing each concern. Actually, sorry, I'm just going to go back to this slide and just address a few additional points. So when we did conduct the site visit, yes, there is a risk that we have identified for snow storage to be pushed into the lane. However, through the community standards bylaw, there are policies in place that do say you cannot push snow onto a public space, and so those would be enforceable. And then for waste collection, yes, there is the risk that bins could be left in the middle of the driveway at the end. However, with it being a single car garage, there is availability, there is space available on the side yards for that. Moving on to lot coverage. So again, on the left is what exists in the land use bylaw today, and the proposed regulations that we're looking to amend is keeping the maximum 50% for all lots, except for increasing that maximum 60% for the internal lots of multi-attached buildings. So again, we're just zooming in on those interior lots, which are usually one or two. In addition to that, we also are proposing to increase the accessory building lot coverage from 17% to 18%. And of course, this is still going to be at the discretion of the development authority, so they do have the ability to make a rational decision based on a case-by-case scenario. So there's a few concerns, operational concerns that were raised by internal departments regarding the increase to lot coverage. One being the impacts on drainage. So by maximizing your building or the covered structure, you're losing permeable surfaces and potentially loss of landscape. So one of the things that we wanted to reiterate is that every lot in Beaumont needs to adhere to the surface drainage bylaw and the general design standards. So at the subdivision stage, these all will be reviewed, and at the development permit stage, again, these all will be reviewed to ensure compliance. In addition to this application, the applicant submitted a servicing utility memo confirming that sanitary storm water services won't be significantly impacted by the narrow lot widths. And engineering has confirmed that these drainages will, this drainage will not be significantly impacted. The second concern that was brought up with lot coverage is environmental sustainability. So the risk is with an increased lot coverage, it may lead to reduced private landscaping and permeable surfaces, again, because you're maxing out the building pocket or the building area. So the solution for this is, yes, we are proposing to increase the lot coverage from 55 to 60 for interior lots only, and then increasing, so that's 5%, and then increasing from 17 to 18% at the discretion of the Development Authority for accessory buildings. But these, again, are maximums. They're not requirements, so they could be built to this extent. It's not like it has to be. And so with that 4.2 meter product, this will only be implemented along rear lanes, which allow for the municipal boulevard, which will accommodate public landscaping. So what I'll do here is, I'm just going to skip to this one. So this is the rear detached product. This is the product that would actually be affected and would need that increase. So if we're just looking and zooming in at lot 29 and 28, you're going to see, it's quite small, but you're going to see that the total coverage, I'll just pick on lot 29. You're going to see that the total lot coverage is coming in at 58.4%. So that's already over that 55%. And then with the garage coverage, you're coming in at 18.2, about 0.3, right? So we already know that if this product is implemented, it's going to increase the lot coverage itself, and then we're kind of going into variance territory here. So by working with the applicant and working on what could work and what different products could look like, administration felt like this would be a good fit. You'll see that, I'll just make a quick note that the garage coverage or the accessory building coverage on this shows 18.3, which we're recommending 18, so that's 0.3 over, and that would not comply. But that was based on a 6.4 meter depth garage. Typical garages that we're seeing in Beaumont today, they're running a depth of 6.1. So by decreasing and knowing that vehicles could fit within a 6.1, and that's generally what we're seeing coming through development services today, we thought that 18% would be more than enough to accommodate the space. A 6.4 would be potentially a nice to have, and then it would be on a variance case. But I also want to acknowledge that the land use bylaw currently exists today that allows for any lots less than 6 meters wide to be allowed 1 tree or 3 shrubs. So they have the option and flexibility promoting that. Okay, so, sorry. Okay, so moving on to the third proposed change of the land use bylaw. This is changing the design standards. So currently today, the way that we evaluate individual lots is on a per lot basis. So if you have, we want to make sure that there isn't a house that's being replicated three houses across or 3 side to side. So it follows that ABCDA. We do acknowledge that within a multi-attached building, it does become a little bit more difficult when you have to provide for more variety and diversity and wall facades and design variations. So taking a look at the proposed regulation, we're still looking to keep the current regulation, and that won't change for singles or semis, but for any multi-attached product, we're looking to change the wording a bit. So it's essentially incorporating at least 2 design techniques or features to reduce the perception of massing, eliminate large walls, and provide for some variation while holistically having the building look cohesive. So an example of this, there's 2 areas here in Edmonton that we've pulled examples from. So I had mentioned on the one on the left already, there's difference in roof types, different gables at different sizes. You'll see that wall openings are different. There's recessions and projections. There's some canopy features, so something to protect the patio balconies. And then on the right-hand side, you're seeing more of a variation between, again, recessing, pulling things back, pulling things forward. But on a site basis, it cohesively complements each other. And so with the current land use bylaw regulations, we wouldn't be able to achieve that. So with this proposed amendment, we hopefully would be able to achieve something similar to the examples above. So with that, that does conclude my presentation. So following this, a public hearing, second and third reading are tentatively scheduled for May 6th, 2025. Following first reading, administration will be advertising the proposed bylaw in the local newspaper and on our website. Administration is recommending that bylaw 1070-25, a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw, be given first reading. Administration is available to answer any clarifying questions that council has regarding the bylaw at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram, for the presentation. Appreciate that. I will move first reading in a moment here on the motion of first reading. Madam Clerk, will you put the first reading motion on the screen, please, and I'll make that. Thank you. And 1070-25, land use bylaw, amending bylaw, be given first reading. Thank you. With that, council, I'll open up to members of council with questions questions first, administration on the presentation, then we'll go to debate, first reading. Councillor Penrod, you have the floor first, followed by Councillor Monkoff-Swain. Phil?
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. Appreciate the thorough presentation, and I'm glad you went over some of those diagrams very carefully, because just looking at them on paper, I wasn't there, but I could, with your explanation, expert explanation, I can appreciate the details that are being shared there. One question for you, the regional context part of your presentation shows that no other area, at least outlined in the report, has both a 4.2 meter minimum and a 60% lot coverage. Additionally, it notes that many other municipalities in the region have opted to implement these type of creative and innovative products in direct control zones. Could you just, I know in the report it does speak to why you're not recommending that route, but I just wonder if you could give a little bit more explanation why a direct control zone wouldn't be the way to go, or at least your recommendation in this case.
Yeah, thank you, the Mayor, through the Mayor to Councillor Penrod. So we did consider, that was one of the options, that we look at a direct control district. And in order for, again, direct controls are unique scenarios, unique circumstances, usually other regulations, they just don't fit within what the product is looking to achieve. And when we evaluated this application, administration felt that in order to isolate this within a certain direct control and potentially different areas in Beaumont, we thought it would meet the intent and the spirit of the IN district that provides for innovative design, diversity of housing types, and it did meet the other regulations within that specific district. So after, taking a look at other municipalities within the region, seen some had direct controls, some had specific zones, we felt that the IN district would support this, and we'd be able to see it within greenfield areas throughout Beaumont instead of isolating it just to a site.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Markov-Swain, followed by Councillor Van Newkirk, followed by Councillor Tellenbus. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just be brief. Lots of discussion around land use bylaw lately, density, etc. Thanks for clarifying the process here. I'll be voting in favour of this first reading to move it to the public hearing so we can hear from the public on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Newkirk. Stephen, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to ask the question, what problem are we trying to solve here? Can you give a simple answer to that? Because there's a whole bunch of words and stuff here. I think I've distilled it down to a couple sentences, but I'd really like to know what problem are we trying to solve?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. So really with reducing the lot width to 4.2, it really provides for different options for tenures and housing options for Beaumont, whether singles, single parent, couples aging in place. It does provide for a difference for that. In speaking with Qualico Communities in particular, who does have a specific product in mind that they're looking to potentially implement. This type of housing product is more so based on a 2-bedroom unit rather than a 3, and by having a 4.2 width, it does provide flexibility and affordability options for people to enter into the market. So really, at the end of the day, we're hoping to, again, diversify, having Beaumont be a place for everybody to be able to enter into the market and to live.
If I could just add, I'd like to clarify that this is an applicant-driven application, so it wasn't generated by the city as a problem that needed to be solved. They come in with an application and we evaluate it based on its potential impacts, how it aligns, and come up with a recommendation based on that, and if necessary, work with them to revise what they're looking to achieve. So again, not necessarily something administration is trying to solve, rather than this is something that developers and builders have identified as a market that needs to be served, and it aligns with the higher order plan. So we're recommending approval as a result.
Yeah, I'm glad you came in with that affirmation at the end, because what I see is the applicant has a design in mind that they'd like to do in Beaumont that doesn't currently fit. And so if Beaumont changed its bylaw, then their design that they have in mind would currently fit. Is that simplified? All of this paper, does that simplify? Is that oversimplified?
Yes, if they came in with this exact product, first of all, they wouldn't get past the subdivision phase because the lot width doesn't meet the land use bylaw. The subdivision would have to grant a variance to do that, and they have not been willing to do that. They want to bring that back to council to make that decision on a more systemic level. If they were able to get the lot width to be brought down, then when they get to the development permit stage, they would need multiple variances in order to meet the site coverage. Again, the development authority may or may not approve those variances based on the perceived impact. So yes, this exact product would not be possible within the zoning bylaw as it is now.
Gotcha. So it's just there for visual purposes, something like this could come and it could be made to fit kind of thing? I'm trying to put the equation between the pictures that are put in front of us versus what could be built. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yes,
No, it's okay.
So because this is visuals help to illustrate, we did ask the developer to provide some examples of site plans so that we could see what the site coverage actually looks like, how the layout actually looks like. This would be available to not just this builder, and there has been interest expressed by other developers in Beaumont. So we know that this is not the only version of the product that will be applied for in the future.
Yeah, that's good. I'll hold the rest of my questions for the rest of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talabas, Nathan, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick question, just in terms of potential for the applicant to attend. Is the applicant allowed to attend during the first reading?
Through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, yes, they have the option to attend.
Perfect. And just for clarity, they would also have the option to speak in that first reading as well?
No, they would
No.
not. No.
Okay, perfect. So for clarity, the applicant is not able to speak in the first reading at all.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Madam Clerk or Ms. Darjay, just, your mic is on, Ms. Darjay.
That's correct. The applicant doesn't speak at first reading. It's only, council would only ask questions of administration.
Okay, perfect. So I guess just second to that, quite a few questions, and unfortunately, some of them probably what can't be answered, but I do appreciate Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's comments. I do find that a lot of the information provided is very holistic and wordy, as opposed to stats and data. So I have questions around, A, again, what was the problem or what's the point of this proposal? So I'll start with a few questions. In terms of density per hectare, how much would we see an increase in density?
I believe at the public hearing that was associated with the IN redistricting that Rousseau came in with, they stated that this was their ultimate goal, and I believe for 150-meter length, they stated there would maybe be an extra 5 units permitted. I'd have to go back to exactly what they presented. I think they would be able to give a better idea of how they're planning their blocks, because it's dependent on how long the street is, all of those things. That may be something to hold for the public hearing and have the developer answer that one.
Okay, perfect. I guess just another question, it was slightly touched on in terms of not having direct control districts, but applying a carte blanche to the entire integrated neighborhood district. Just looking for a little more clarity as to why we wouldn't try and pilot potentially something that's new as opposed to allowing it to happen across the board. There's been comments made just in terms of what an adjustment to a land use bylaw can do. Wouldn't a phased approach potentially be more appropriate so we could see some of the positives or negatives that come with a development like this?
So through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos. So direct control, as I had mentioned, it was something that we did consider, and it was something that we felt that the IN district could support something that is innovative, that allows for a diverse in housing types with mixed-use product, or sorry, multi-attached product. And so one of the a couple of the pros for, incorporating a smaller dense product is allowing different housing types and options in Beaumont. So you do have singles, single parents, you do have aging in place, you do have options for people who want, maybe not, they don't need a big lot, they don't need a lot of yard to maintain, and they just want to stay in Beaumont and reside, but there's not a market for it. I feel like we also are seeing a market trend within the region that are bringing the lots, reducing them in size to 4.2. So instead of just blanketly saying all lots could be 4.2, we kept it just to the internal lots of a multi-attached product. So again, with a fourplex, you're only going to see the interior lots that could potentially be 4.2 that are that are minimums, they're not requirements. So if the applicants wanted to come in with, a larger product at 4.9, they could. I do want to point out that within the other policies and statutory plans within Beaumont, such as area structure plans, within those documents, it does talk about housing diversity and providing for different housing types. So we wouldn't, at the subdivision stage, when we're evaluating these applications and we're seeing a consistent product being copied and pasted block to block to block within the neighborhood, that doesn't really provide for a diversity in housing type. So this could implement within the IN district. You can still see single detached, semi-detached, threeplexes, fourplexes, and so on, but it just provides for a little bit of flexibility and diversity for that. So.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So you touched on a few of the key words here that I mentioned are in this report, but just looking for some numbers or some data to further support that. So by reducing a lot size only on the internal units by 0.5 meters, how much cost savings are you looking at a typical unit compared to the surrounding units?
Yeah.
I would again defer that to public hearing or to go back to the meeting with the developer. I believe they gave some numbers at that. Typically, what we know is on what the city can control. A narrow lot means that there is less infrastructure to bring across. Lots are sold based on the frontage and the width, and that's a major player in the cost. So we know that it can reduce the land costs and does reduce the land costs. What that actually translates to dollars, the developer will be able to provide.
Okay, perfect. Going to slide number 13, it was discussed that there were quite a few concerns from administration in terms of things such as garbage. I look at the photos here and being able to access garbage bins. I look at the photos here and this looks like a very light snowstorm. And I'm just curious where all the snow from the driveways supposed to go if we're not able to toss it into the road section as per existing bylaws. And the second question to that, would this be considered a back lane where snow clearing would not occur?
So through the mayor to Councillor Natellenboss, yeah, the road clearance is structured on a hierarchy level. Lanes, I believe, are not included with that, and they're classified as low priority. So with the snow clearing, there is the space between the side yards, and again, these are the interior units. When you're looking at the exterior units, you do have more space. So the lots aren't going to be 4.2, they could be 5.5 or larger. And so with they could push the snow to those exterior, and then the interior lots would have space within the garages for that. So for the examples provided, it kind of shows and illustrates a parking pad at a 6-meter length on the one side, and then a non-existent parking pad. It's just an entrance to the garage at 1.2 meters. So really, what we're seeing here is people are pushing the snow to the side yards, and they are able to get in and out of the garages. At this time within Beaumont, we do have similar product where you have the multi-attached and the concrete pad that expands again across it, the whole driveway. And what we see is snow being pushed in between the driveways, in between the garages, and through consultation with citizen engagement, they've said that there's been no history of concerns with residents over snow clearing. Usually their concerns are just missing bins or missed pickup. So, yeah, do you want to add?
The only thing I would add to that is when you go to a wider lot, you're also jumping to a double car garage, so the actual space between the garages isn't changing. The loading area, you're maximizing the size of your garage door, so the space between the garage doors is not a significant change between a 4.2 meter and, for example, a 5.5 meter lot.
Thank you. I guess just for clarity, though, I guess the biggest difference between the comparison you provided and what we're showing here is garbage bins, as mentioned, will have to be in the front of the driveway. During garbage pickup, and we see it all the time, during school pickup, people park wherever they need to park between those garbage bins, blocking driveways, blocking access, creating complete havoc in terms of access to people's own houses. So just wondering how we'd get around that.
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, just to clarify your question, you're talking about an owner places their garbage bin in front of the driveway, the collection comes, and then they're having to stop their vehicle, move it on site so that it's there and then pull into the driveway? Or are you talking about more so people are already parking within the laneway and it's causing more congestion within the lane?
Correct. Or people temporarily parking in another driveway that's open because garbage bins are in front of the other, and just the concerns that would come with that.
Absolutely. So with this type of lane product, there would be no parking within the lane itself, only on a private driveway or within the garage. So there should be no parking within the laneways. And then in terms of where to put your garbage bin, just as you can see on the picture on the right, there's the organics and the garbage, and it's tucked away on either side. They could just pull it forward right in front of the snowbank or close to and be able to provide it there.
Perfect, thank you. Two more questions, quick one,
Please.
Mayor, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
First one is, in terms of public engagement that administration has performed, how many surveys have we completed where we've received 0 responses from the community?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss. A few. I can't confirm. I don't have that information available, but yeah, we just don't have that information. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, perfect. I just want to touch on the approach here for engaging the individuals that were engaged. So for the general public, it appears it was just a newspaper posting with an ad to direct readers to go to a survey, whereas there was a more concerted effort to developers and reach out to developers individually. So just wondering if we could speak to why the developers were reached out to individually and general public is just expected to read the newspaper that most of us don't receive regularly and respond to the survey through that.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes, thank you. I'll take that question, Councillor Tellenboss. Just for clarity, this is a developer-led proposal, and the developer was the one that undertook the engagement on this. We're simply bringing forward their proposal for council's consideration. Any of those comments on the adequacy of their public engagement, I think you could raise at the public hearing when they're here.
Perfect, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Councilman Cook, Kat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quick, some of my questions were already posed, and I will vote in favor and reserve my further questions for the public hearing and when the applicant is present and able to respond.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. Seeing no further comments or questions for administration, I'm going to call the vote. If you can initiate the voting process for first reading, please. I think I'm missing one. Nathan, could you hit your screen one more time?
No, I just wanted to speak to that prior to voting, but
Speak to what, sorry?
just the vote itself and reasoning behind it.
I'm not sure how to help you with that, but we're at the vote stage, so. Thank you, Council. That first reading passed unanimously, 6-0 in favor of first reading. Appreciate that. So we're at 9:45. We're going to move the balance of our agenda to next council meeting. We're going to proceed then with closed session 12.1. Madam Clerk, do we need to do a motion to move, this is the first time I've ever done this, so do we need to move a motion to move the balance of our agenda items, which would be consent agenda 7.1, 7.2, and so on, to our next meeting? How do we do this?
Mayor, we would not be proceeding with the consent agenda. We'll just be moving those items that are on this agenda to a future special council meeting or to another council meeting.
Right.
I did want to confirm whether or not council still wanted to proceed with this CAO update, the councillor inquiries and the notice of motions that are scheduled, or if they are pushing the entire agenda to a future meeting.
Council's 9:45. What do you want to do? Push it to the balance. Councillor Van Newkirk, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not sure the best way to do this, but if we, dare I say, the pickleball conversation could be quick. I just don't know how to do that procedurally, because then that opens up the consent agenda and the whole works. So, yeah, I don't know how to proceed.
I don't guarantee quick anytime with council, in the nicest possible way. I mean, debating's a good thing, so I'd rather move the entire consent agenda as it is. Madam Clerk, Councillor Tellenbus, you have a question, comment?
Just a question in regards to the motions. Obviously, there's some timelines potentially tied to that. Is there any way we could go through the notice of motions and pickleball in future meeting?
Okay, what we're going to do is this then. We're going to,
So if I may,
Madam Clerk.
we can go ahead and do the consent agenda. That's a motion that will take whatever you want to take off of, if it's all the items or if it's just some of the items, we can do that, and we can defer those items you want to take off to the next council meeting that we're going to have for that, and whatever items are potentially staying on, those can just be dealt with tonight, unless they're all of them, we're not sure, we can figure that out. And then if we want to do the pickleball one, then you can do the pickleball one, because it was dealt with on taking it off consent. And then whether or not council wants to move forward, there is time limitations, obviously, as Councillor Tellenbos said, for notice of motions that are coming for this evening. So I'm just not sure how
Okay,
council
here's
would
what we're
like
going to do.
proceed.
I'm making an executive decision. It's 9:48. We have a closed session item yet. We're going to move the consent agenda in its whole to next meeting. We will proceed to notices of motion, item 11. We'll get them read into the record because they'll be voted on 2 weeks' time from now. Then we're going to move into our closed session 12.1. So if you require a motion to that effect, Madam Clerk, we can move the entire consent agenda to the next meeting. Madam Clerk.
Hi.
Madam Clerk?
So
Additional information?
the financial one that we have for the extension, we do need that one this evening. That's as per the Municipal Government Act. We do need to have that motion dealt with this evening.
Okay, how do we do this then?
You can just pull the one off the consent agenda.
Okay, would you please put consent agenda on the screen, please? I'll make that motion to pull off the financial reporting request, which is 7.4. We'll vote on that by itself and move the balance of consent agenda to the next meeting. We will entertain the 4 or 5 notices of motion from councillors, even if they can be read into the record and voted on in 2 weeks' time. We're good? Then it gives us time to get our closed session done by 10-ish, shortly after 10, hopefully sooner. Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Mayor. Somehow a couple of mics went live at the same time. I'm just wondering if we can take a step backward. I know you're talking about executive decision. We have before suspended our meeting procedures to go a little longer. We're all here. I feel like this needs to be more of a decision of consensus of council for how to proceed tonight. We may not be able to get through all the business tonight. I don't think anyone wants to stay here till midnight, but I also look forward at future council meetings and know there's not a lot of light ones coming. So I'm not sure how we take half of a meeting and slap it onto another agenda and make that work either, unless we're having a special meeting. So that's just my point.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm going to stick to my guns here. We're going to do what we're going to do.
I guess my point is, I'm not sure that you're able to just make that as an executive decision. I think you need council
Madam
consensus.
Clerk, can you advise me if I have that authority?
Council needs to pass a motion in order to be able to move these items. If a member wants to put a motion on the floor to temporarily suspend the meeting procedures to go past 10 p.m., that motion would be voted on, and if it carried, then we would go past.
Okay, sorry, I thought I asked before, but we need a motion to move the agenda items, and I didn't get an answer on that, so that's why I made the
We
comment
do
of
need
the
a
executive
motion to
decision.
move those items to go to another meeting.
Okay. Just take a second here, make it clear in my mind how we're supposed to proceed. You put the consent agenda on the screen, please? So we then to be sure. We need to pull 7.4 off for sure to get it done tonight. Is council okay with pulling off 7.4? Consensus is there? Okay. We pull 7.4 off consent. Is council okay with the balance of the consent agenda being pushed to next meeting? Consensus? That'll allow us to get into the notice of the motion. Nobody's opposing? That's what we're going to do. So, Madam Clerk, do you need a motion to move the balance of the consent agenda items to next meeting?
Just to clarify, that would also mean that we would be pushing the 6.1 and 6.2 of the regular council meeting minutes as well?
Correct.
To that meeting? Okay.
Could we at least ask the room to see if people would be willing to continue until 10:30 tonight? And just get a...
I'll get there.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's get this done first, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I have item 6.1, 6.2, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5 currently on for being deferred to a future meeting, with 7.4 being pulled off.
Okay, Councilor Talambus.
Sorry, Bill, I know you're frustrated, but just echoing what Councillor Penrod had said, if we're transitioning or moving these to the next council meeting, then we don't have the ability to speak to them. And if we're going to 10:30, as again mentioned by Councillor Penrod, then the potential to speak to some of these exists.
Well, I'm doing this in accommodate your request to have the motion read tonight, so I'm trying to make that work for you as well.
So I do have the motion here to defer the items to another meeting. I can put it on the thing and council can vote on that. And if the vote is in favor and carried, then
Please put on the
that would
screen,
be.
Madam Clerk. Sam, you have a comment here?
Yeah, I'll try to help us here, and sorry if I don't, but I think first and foremost, if there is a 10 till 10:30, then that'll dictate 10 till 10:30, then that'll dictate how people vote on the next one. So my recommendation is we make that motion to go to 10:30, and then we can make the motion on which ones go forward. So, yeah.
So I'll need to withdraw my motion first on the consent then.
Pardon? I'm just saying, let's get to 10:30. If we're comfortable going to 10:30, then we can decide what we want to do next, but we're putting the cart before the horse. So I just think that should be the first motion. We got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, what does council want to do? I'm tired.
I would make that motion, Mayor.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do I need to withdraw my motion on consent first before we do the motion to extend the meeting? Madam Clerk?
I'm sorry, it's been a really long evening. I didn't hear you put a motion on the floor with regards to the consent. I just thought we were just talking about what we were going to be.
Okay,
So
no
I
problem.
don't currently have any motions on the floor,
Okay,
other
that's
than the one
fine.
Councillor Penrod just.
That's fine.
And I'll pull that one up here if you just give me
Okay.
1 second.
Let's do that.
Doing good.
Okay.
Take your time.
All right, let's get the motion when it's ready, please. Thank you. Okay, we might move the closed item 12.1. It's being suggested by administration. 12.1 could become. Okay. Councilor Penrod, make your motion if you could, please. It's on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. I move that the rules of meeting procedures bylaw 1014-22 be temporarily suspended to allow the April 8th, 2025 regular council meeting to go past 10 p.m. and adjourn by 10:30 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion, members of council. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process on this motion? That carries unanimously, council. 6-0 in favor of adjourning at 10:30. So, council, what we're going to do is, back to the consent agenda, please. Okay, Steve, you're here. 7.4 for consent. 7.4 for consent. Steve, you want to pull off 7.1? You mentioned earlier this evening you were looking at pulling off 7.1. Yep. Okay, let's pull off 7.1. Are any additional items on consent agenda to be pulled off?
7.3.
Okay, 7.3. Any further changes? Councilor McCook?
Sorry, Mayor, just to clarify, we're dealing with this, but then the notices of motion that people also want to read through.
We'll
Are
have to
we
get
dealing
to
with
them as
that
fast
too?
as we can
Okay, thank you.
by 10:30.
So I just want to clarify, we're just pulling these ones off, and the ones that are currently on the consent agenda are going to be deferred, or are we good to have,
Deferred,
you want all of them deferred?
except the ones we're pulling off. We'll have to discuss them.
If that's the case, 7.3 can stay on for next meeting. Sorry.
All right, people.
Sorry. In my view, 6.1, 6.2 can stay on and be approved, well, be voted as a consent, can stay as part of the consent agenda. The only one that we need to pull off to discuss and vote tonight is the 7.4. All the other ones will get deferred to the next meeting. So
Okay, so,
unless he wants to
so
pull
then
off-
what we'll do, okay,
let's go through 6.1, sorry.
so what we can do right now, I'm going to deal with 6.1 and 6.2. So if I can please have a counselor
I will move
that right now.
I will move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. 6.1, regular council meeting minutes, March 11, 2025. 6.2, council meeting minutes, March 25th, 2025. And can I add 7.4 into that? Just add it in there and we can vote it on at once,
7.4?
please. And I'll also move 7.4, that the financial
Yeah, financial reporting, yeah.
reporting extension request 2025.
Okay,
Okay,
7.4, yeah.
So all we're doing here is approving 6.1, 6.2, 7.4. We're not doing anything else with
Correct.
anything else.
Correct. So 7.2 should come, yeah, it's moved there, okay? Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process on this? That carries unanimously, 6-0. Thank you, council. Thank you for the suggestion.
And then I'll make another motion that defers the rest of the consent agenda items to the next meeting.
okay, you'll just have to give me 1 sec. I
Yep.
just need to amend this motion here
Yep.
that I have ready to go. So we're going to discuss 7.1. So we'll be discussing 7.1 this evening? Pickleball?
Yes,
Okay.
it was pulled off, correct, Steve?
My recommendation, sorry, the
Hang on.
motion that I would like to make is 7.1 to everything that was previously on the consent agenda just gets moved to the next meeting. The friendly pricklers
Okay, so
can wait a couple weeks.
7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, and 7.7, correct? Oh,
Just 7.1 is 1, 2, 3, and 5.
sorry, can you check the agenda, please?
Just take a second, get it straight. 7.1 should be on there, correct?
Right.
Please, Madam Clerk.
Sorry, I'm just getting clarification here.
So 7.1, 7.2. So which ones? Okay.
Yep. 7.5. 7.1, 2. 4 is dealt with. And 5. So we're dealing with the other ones tonight. So,
Can I help?
yeah, please.
So I'd like to move 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, 7.8, which is my motion. And then I'll see if, I don't want to move Councillor Talonboss's or Councillor Van Newkirk's motion, 7.6 and 7. I'll wait for them to add a friendly amendment if they're willing to do that. So we'll be deferring all of those. And if I'll invite them to add, if they want to discuss 7.6 or 7.7 tonight, I'll invite them to add it. I'll move mine 7.8 to the next meeting.
Steve, you want to have 7.6 tonight? It can move. 7.6 also, please. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Talonboss, 7.7.
7.
You wish to move it?
Whatever you prefer, so.
We can get to
It'd
it.
be helpful, thank you. 7.7 also, please.
Does that meet your motion?
Maybe read it one more time, Sam.
Yeah,
I can
my only comment was you're locking yourself into a special council meeting. Can we just say future council meeting? You guys can determine whether that needs to be special or whether that needs, it could be thrown on the end of agenda. Just give you the flexibility there.
For sure.
Okay. Thank you. Would you read it aloud? Once it's done editing, read it aloud one more time, please.
I'll move that item 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, as presented in the April 2025 regular council meeting agenda, be deferred to a future council meeting.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion, members of council? Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, just further to Councillor Munkoff-Swain's last point, I'm just wondering if the A is going to cause us problems down a future council meeting. Do we have to deal with them all at one meeting?
I think they can figure that out.
I think that's the plan.
Okay, I just wanted to flag it. I didn't want to get us painted into a corner here. I would support that motion.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think we need prescribed meeting notification. You guys will take care of that if needed. So I just stopped at meeting.
Okay. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please initiate the voting process. Okay, I'm not. Councilor Nantella, yeah, thank you. That carries unanimously, 6-0 in favor. All right. Our city update can be postponed to the next meeting. Madam Clerk, do we need a motion for that, or we can simply postpone it?
We can just,
We're good? All right, item 11 then on our agenda, notices of motion. Madam Clerk, would you please put the first notice of motion on the screen for that councillor to make? Oh, hang on, your mic's on now.
Yeah, it is, sorry. We do have a councillor inquiry first before we go to notice of motions.
Oh, I was on my notes, so I apologize for missing that. The councillor inquiry, please.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor. Could administration please provide information on the size of the Beaumont Daycare's facility as well as the average occupancy? Please also include the minimum parking standard under the current land use bylaw. Institutional at 2 stalls per 100 meters squared is sufficient to support the number of staff and participants.
No, I do not have any other councillor inquiries.
Thank you. That concludes councillor inquiries. We'll move on to item 11 on our agenda, notices of motion. Madam Clerk, please put the notice of motion, the first one on the screen when you have the opportunity for that councillor to make that motion. Councilor Talabas, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to move that at the April 22nd, 2025 regular council meeting, that the automated traffic enforcement program be temporarily suspended until council receives the report outlining the procurement process on the sites identified for ATE, at which time the council can determine the effectiveness of the program.
Thank you, councillor. I believe the second one is yours as well. When you're ready, please make your second notice of motion.
Thank you. At the April 22nd, 2025 regular council meeting, I will move that by the end of Q2, administration provide a report that outlines the service portal request system, including the notification process that specifically closes each request.
Thank you, councillor. Madam.
That's it.
Just the two? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was more than two. Just the two? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was more than two. Okay, that takes care of that. Next on our agenda is our closed session, so we have time to do 12.1. Ms. O'Neill, if you're prepared to speak to it.
Sure I can, or alternatively I can.
Well, we've got a few minutes now. How long do you need? Would 5 minutes do it? Okay. Let's proceed with that. If you could, please, a motion to move into closed session. I'll move the council move to closed session at 10:09 p.m. pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Property Protection of Privacy Act, Section 1724 and 25. Discussion of the motion, council. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for moving into closed session? That carries unanimously, 6-0. Let me know when we're live, please. Thank you. We're live. Thank you. We're live back after our closed session. No motions coming from that closed session. The last item on our agenda, so we are adjourned at 10:16 p.m. Thank you and enjoy your evening.